a salsa chicken lettuce wrap.
Salsa chicken lettuce wrap.
That's right.
Holy guacamole!
Sounds like a new dance you'll be trying later on.
I like it. So what are we doing with this?
And we're adding what with it? Of course, we have to talk about the drink.
Well,
Ooh.
that's what goes right along line with the
I
spice.
got it. It's working.
All right, so if you guys have not had
Start with the margarita.
a jalapeno margarita,
My favorite,
it's
personal favorite.
definitely one of my favorites. If you really want to step it up a notch, little pineapple juice in there.
Ooh.
Do I have pineapple in mine?
You do not, but if you have pineapple juice, I could help you, my friend.
All right,
Okay, another
so
secret.
let's get
Mise en
cooking.
place. Add pineapple juice.
That's right. Add some pineapple juice.
Okay.
All right, we're a little punchy today. We've got a whole new crew here, so bear with us, please.
Let's get cooking.
All right, let's do it.
So as usual, we want to make sure all our mise en place is in place, right? I have our chicken thighs in our marinade pan. You can use a bowl like this.
Okay.
As we feed a crew, I need a little bigger vessel, so
Got it?
I'll use this to make the marinade, and then we'll pour it into that in order to let it marinate.
Perfect.
We have our salsa ingredients here. We'll add a little bit of red onion to that.
Okay.
We just need a skillet like this, a large fry pan, a large skillet. The reason I have a sheet pan is because we're gonna finish in the oven because of the large crew.
Okay.
And then we have our ingredients at the bar here for our spicy jalapeno
Now that
margarita.
looks delicious over here.
Mhm.
Lovely. Excited about that.
So today, light and fresh, super easy. What we're looking to do is this is a meal that you can make on a day like today where you get home at 6 o'clock. I don't want to be in the kitchen cooking. I don't want to turn the oven. That's the goal, right? The reason we did it is because people were, but you don't have to turn the oven on for
Right.
this meal. That's
Which is
the
great.
important piece, because we can just pan fry or saute our chicken in the pan until done, and then it's a nice, light, refreshing meal, right?
Perfect.
All
All
right,
right.
so let's get started. First and foremost, we're gonna want to marinate our chicken. So I got a marinade bowl here. We're gonna need a zester. And then if you don't have one of these bad guys,
Super handy. Love these.
definitely useful. Your next tool is gonna be the
Oh,
potato
we have
peeler,
options. Like
the
it.
vegetable peeler, right? As we
Perfect.
talked about before, one of these things with this guy is if you take your vegetable peeler and just lightly scrape across, you're able to get the zest. See how I'm not peeling any of the pith off?
Right.
This white right here is called the pith. It's very, very bitter. We do not want that. All we want is the outside, the zest. So if you don't have a fancy kitchen utensil like this, this is your next best friend. If you don't have that, you can get crazy with a paring knife.
But
Like
be
this.
careful with that pairing.
Yeah,
This
this
one-
one's gonna be super difficult. And you're basically just gonna kind of shave it like this. Just so we're barely getting it off, right? So as you saw, the real tool here,
So now to the easiest one.
keep your knuckles out of the way, your fingertips. So it doesn't look like the zest is there, but it always catches the zest here. So this guy's really, really nice. If you guys don't use zest in your marinades or you're cooking already, highly recommended. It's where all the flavor is. The juice is good. You want to get a lime flavor or lemon or orange,
Right.
use the zest, exactly.
We've learned that on many weeks, so I've got that one down.
It makes a world of difference in the
Exactly.
outcome of our dishes.
Absolutely. And you can smell it. I mean, you can just see the aroma of it. You know that it's doing something. I mean, it's definitely going to add flavor.
All right away, right? So as you see, I'm not taking any of that pith.
Right.
It's staying there, right? So we want to make sure that we keep that there.
Excellent.
And all I do is basically do one solid pass and then just continue rotating it around. So you can see how it goes.
Right.
So you can, if you're just using the zest and you don't need the juice per se, you can leave this in your refrigerator and it'll stay fine.
Oh, and still use it later.
Yep, until you need it. So just because it doesn't have the pretty green color on the outside, doesn't mean that it's no longer useless.
Good to know.
Mhm.
Definitely want to reuse that.
So then if you're getting into this, right, if you have your potato peeler, you're just gonna wanna try to get that chopped as fine as you can. So almost like a julienne cut, and then turn it in the opposite direction, using my fingernail as the guide there.
And watch out for those fingers.
Keep your thumb out of the
'Cause
way.
that is a little cut.
If your thumb's there, everyone wants to hold it like this, that's where you'll get it. Keep the claw, keep the thumb tucked behind the hand. Use that as your surface, your guide, and then you'll be able to go from there. So then still, it's not as fine as the zester itself, but you can see we can still get a nice fine cut out of that process to go in there, right? Even though it's a little bit of coarse, it's not gonna matter. It's only marinating. So it's not like we're making key lime pie where we want that zest to be so fine, so you're not getting a rind and pulling it out of your tooth, right?
Absolutely.
So that's that. We're gonna need the juice of these limes.
So in our case, we need it all today.
In most recipes, you will.
You use both. Great.
I just recommend zesting before you juicing, otherwise getting the zest off of that might be a little more
Good
difficult,
point,
right?
good point.
So don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, or don't start ahead of this one.
Because the recipe says the juice of the lime and then the zest of it. Anytime you're reading a recipe, read the whole thing. Get an idea of what you're doing.
Got it.
Change whatever you don't want. It's really simple.
Makes perfect sense.
So and then, like you saw before we got started, I like to roll the fruit and compress that to break up the tissue, the flesh of the leaf, so that way we can juice it much easier. If you having struggles or it's harder for you to really squeeze this thing, if you don't have a juicer, take a pair of tongs, stick your pair of tongs right around here, squeeze your tongs together, juice it right away. Mhm. All right. And we're gonna need a little bit of olive oil. And our spices there. So if you want to grab the rest of our spices and that agave nectar, we're gonna add a little sweetness to this.
Nice.
Yeah. So because we're pan frying, the oil isn't gonna be detrimental. If we're making a marinade to grill, less fat in our marinade is most important because what happens to fat? It burns, right? When we put a chicken thigh like this, we already have plenty of fat here. Once we add more to that, the flame is only gonna burn and darken, so it's gonna create a black, it's not even a char flavor, more like a smokiness, right, to the outside without cooking. So we're only burning in it, and not cooking.
And especially because they're so thin. I mean, that burn is you're gonna feel that burn.
Well, and it's just gonna make the product look terrible, number one, but it's not gonna do what we want it to, right? So when you're out on the barbecue or on an open flame, less fat in your marinade, the better. A little sweet. Little cayenne to kick it up a notch. Since we here like it a little on the caliente side.
I like it.
It's good because, so coriander, this is dried cilantro seeds.
Oh, I
Same
don't think I
thing.
knew that.
If you
Anybody
take a
else know
smell
that?
of it,
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
right? This one's not as, this one's more pungent, so to speak,
I would think.
because
so.
it's not blossomed into
Got
the
it.
leaves of the cilantro. So coriander would be ground cilantro seeds. So remember, when using fresh and dry, the fresh is going to be a lot nicer to use and not as bitter to the palate.
Right.
And then your dry is going to be more bitter to the palate than you would think. That's all that. So quick little stir with the fork. A whisk, a fork. I use this as a whisk because it's just that simple. So you can see the texture of it.
Right.
It's almost kind of pasty, right?
Like grainy, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the herbs. The
And
thickness comes from our agave, right? So
Right.
that's where that thickness comes from. So that way we can maintain that. But we just want to make sure that there's a liquid that's positive enough or not too crazy for when we go to marinate. So here, we're gonna want to try to distribute evenly at first.
Do you want a brush?
No, because we're gonna mix it around anyway.
Okay.
But we're just wanting to make sure that we can pretty much put an even sense in there to begin with, right? Because we don't want to just marinate one side of the chicken. So all I'm doing is picking it up and dropping it back down. So I'm letting all the excess marinade run off of the thighs and then putting it right back down onto the bottom side. So that way that can marinate as well. And when marinating, we only want to marinate for 20-30 minutes. You can do 24 hours if you want. The more you marinate, the more flavor you get, the tender your meat is. So if you don't have 30 minutes to do that, it's okay. If you don't have 2 days to do that, it's okay. The best way to do the marinades is put it in a Ziploc bag and get as much air out of it as you possibly can, because then it sucks in and it helps compress the muscle tissue with the flavors.
Good to know.
So now that that's marinating, we're gonna let that sit and do its thing.
Do we have any comments in the chat box?
There was just somebody had asked if, or why the skin was off the chicken.
So in our case, this is what we're working with. Does it matter per se? If you want skin on your chicken, put the skin on your chicken. If you want bone-in chicken, bone-in chicken. If you want to use breast, use breast. The reason thighs are being used for this application is to keep it nice, tender, and juicy, right? The dark meat's always going to be a little more tender than the breast. If you're going to utilize the breast, not a big deal. Just remember that you're not going to cook it as long as you're going to want to, right? Because you're going to want
Otherwise, it'll overcook.
yeah, you're going to want it to be juicy and tender. Okay? So now that we have that piece ready, we're going to set these guys aside, ready to go. And then we might as well dive right on into our cocktail hour. Since it is so hot, and try to get a little refreshing here. I'm gonna need another line. Yeah, I got it, yeah.
You gotta pour it away.
Yeah, because our big old bottle of Patron's a little harder to pour into our measurement there. Yep, we're gonna need the shaker. All right, so what we have is we have our fresh oranges, our fresh limes. We have our shaker, we're gonna need that. We're gonna need our tahini.
Okay.
I have our tahini on a plate already. So all we're using this for is two things. If you don't like the rim of your margarita salted and seasoned, that's what we're using the tahini for, which is a chili lime salt. If you don't like that, put a little pinch into here, shake it up, you get the same essence of that without it having the salty crust on the outside, right?
So I kind of think that I've just started seeing tahini maybe the last couple of years? How much before that?
It's been around for a while, but it blew up probably in like the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Because it was being introduced to fruit, and it's been eaten on fruit for a long time. Watermelon, pineapple, mango.
Okay. I mean, I saw it more in restaurants more recently, I guess.
Because they recognized how much more of the population is enjoying that flavor. Absolutely. Why not incorporate it to?
Oh, no, it's lovely. I love it on a margarita. I just thought it was interesting that it was a change where the restaurants offer it now versus not before.
Yeah, and like I said, so as culinary grows, it's going to continue to progress, right? Obviously, it's not meat and potatoes like it was 40 years ago.
That's true, but it's a nice change.
It is nice. So like I said, if you don't like that crust, just a pinch in when you shake it, you'll still get the essence. It'll have the flavor there. I would recommend doing it anyway, just a tiny pinch in there, because it's going to elevate your margarita.
Like that.
That's my preference. So first things first, in order to juice these bad guys, we want to put it down, calm down, and we just want to rub it roll it in, massage it, if I may. Not pressing too hard. All we're doing is just trying to break up the muscle, right? So the
Right.
flesh of the fruit, so
Right.
that way when we squeeze it, all the juices come out.
Right, perfect.
So Beth, if you want to get some ice into that bad guy.
Or. There you go. Thank you.
So then, first what we want to do. So the easiest way to rim, you saw, I cut. Use this for this. So that way we can have this. I would do a side roll because I don't want it too much in there. It depends on what everyone's preference is. Dive in as much as you want. So making that slit in here allows us to.
Right, to get all the way around it.
Yeah, it gives, you can see how much down it goes,
Absolutely.
and that's what's gonna determine the crust essentially. So if we were to roll it like this, then you can see how much tahini we're able to get on there. Right? So see
Perfect.
the difference of it?
Fantastic.
Okay.
Nice job.
So then we can get a little bit of ice in there.
In the glasses?
Yep. So I'm gonna squeeze these guys into here. Show you our other technique since we're gonna be juicing here. So when you can't squeeze it as good as you think you can, or trying not to, if you put it in between your toes and such, just be careful because you don't want to squeeze too much too fast or you'll get it all over your kitchen. But now that took most of the juice out of there, so that way we can squeeze it and do what we need to do with it. Or you get your handy dandy juicer out
And juice.
take care of it, right?
Either way, but this is still a good way if you don't have the tool.
Yeah, it's super simple. But that's why it's important to break up that tissue before we cut it in half,
Right.
because then that'll help you really be able to extract as much of that lime juice or orange juice or grapefruit juice or lemon juice, what it is you're trying to juice into your sauce or cocktail or marinade, whatever it is your
Right,
application is.
absolutely.
Reminds me of being a kid. Not making margaritas, don't get crazy.
I'm like, what?
Just juicing oranges.
As a kid, you juiced oranges?
I had 3 orange trees, well, 2 orange trees and a grapefruit tree. So every Saturday morning, we would make probably a gallon or 2 gallons of orange juice.
Oh,
As much as we could make, because why not when you have all the oranges, right?
absolutely.
So fresh orange juice, delicious. We're gonna need our Blanco tequila. Anyone you'd like, we're using local Patron today. It all depends on your preference. You
There's
can
so
use,
many kinds.
you can use reposado, you can use añejo. Most of the time when you're making a margarita, a reposado, or an añejo tequila is aged, so it's gonna have a little more distinctive of a flavor. The blanco is going to allow the other flavors to come through a little bit more and not be so pungent on
Good point.
the tequila taste. So that's why it's nice to use the blanco. So with this guy, we're gonna slice them. There's a couple things you can do. Depends on how spicy you want it.
Spicy,
Okay.
you know that.
So if you like it spicy, I would take a few slices and put them in the bottom and just lightly muddle. Don't mash it like you're making a mojito, but you just want to break up the oils,
Right.
and then that's gonna put that oil into our cocktail, right? So since we're gonna vigorously shake this, we might be able to break that up enough. You can put the seeds in, you can leave the seeds out, it's all your preference. So if you like it with the seeds in, where it's gonna have a little more kick to it.
I'm looking going, that's a lot of jalapeno.
Yeah, we're gonna load it up. All we're doing is just taking the oil. It won't
I
be,
do like a lot of jalapeno.
it won't be in the cocktail. We don't want to add that yet. We want to add our agave. So a little sweetener.
Yeah.
1, 2
Had a
for
pinch of that.
both of those. I'm down with that.
Yeah, well, let's do it. We suggested it, we may as well try it.
If we're doing 2, we'll do 2 pinches. Not a pinch and a dash, because you might not have enough.
And you never put the seltzer in there.
Please
Just so
don't
you
put
know,
the seltzer,
that
no
never goes in.
carbonation. Don't shake up the carbonation.
No,
okay?
no,
You guys know how
no,
that
that
goes.
stays on the side.
The rule of thumb is 30 shakes. I don't know why. It's 30 shakes.
30 shakes is
Martini,
it?
30 shakes.
Okay, let's see if,
It's something about the molecular structure and how it breaks down. I don't know.
go figure.
I'm not-
Someone tested that,
Yes, they
got the
have.
30. You're always such a wealth of knowledge, even for the shake.
I try to learn as much as I can wherever I. Just a little lime garnish. Just some of that extra fresh lime squeeze in there. And now you're ready to
Okay.
enjoy.
Is there a seltzer in there or no? No, no, I mean, I didn't know it was out.
We brought it out in case, because some people don't like it as much, so if we'll just put a topper on it, right?
Okay. I didn't know. I like it. The best. So.
Well, in either way, right? So how we're doing it is same if you want.
Stir it.
Not too crazy. It's got a good little mix there. It's not gonna sit on top or anything.
All right, we're gonna try it and then you're all gonna tell us what you think.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's really good.
That's not bad. Yeah.
That's great.
Nice and refreshing on a day like today, right?
Absolutely.
I dig it.
I need that after my day.
And there's no margarita mix.
That I like too.
That was huge,
That's a
right?
lot of extra sugar.
Not that, but it's got that unnecessary sourness that just doesn't sit well, right?
Very
So
true. And yet not too spicy. I mean, I love spicy, but even with all that jalapeno in there, I don't feel the spice. What do you guys think at home? Are you guys enjoying your margarita?
I
I've never
hope
made this
so.
before.
Nice and refreshing. And like I said, you want to kick that up a notch, little tiny pineapple juice in there. When you go to shake it, delicioso.
Love it.
All right,
All right, now we're moving on.
moving on. We're gonna make some fresh salsa or pico de gallo, if I may. So when we're making the pico, we wanna evaluate, how chunky do we want it, right? How do we want this to be? Do we want it to be real thin? Do we want it to be super small? It all really depends on how big our lettuce is, because we can't have big old chunks of tomato and a
True.
small piece of lettuce and a chunk like. We wanna be conscious to
Consistent.
how that is gonna look when we're at the end of it, right? So I think we're gonna go pretty small for the most part.
Okay.
I'm gonna use this guy. Recommend, don't pull this out with your fingers. If you do, wash your hands. After using any jalapeno or any pepper, wash your hands, always. Don't mess around. You think like, oh, no, it's fine. No.
Yeah, make sure.
Hour later, scratching your eyeball. Doesn't go very well, trust me. Done it.
It's a rough night.
It's tough, yeah. You don't wanna be standing over the sink pouring milk into your eyeball. It's not cool. Actually, I got my little one with that on accident.
Oh, no.
Yeah, when she was little. So, was making something like this and thought I had washed my hands in it.
Oh, when you touched her with your hand?
Got
Oh,
it.
no.
I was wiping her eye.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ow, right? Brutal.
It could happen to anybody.
It can.
Just be careful.
What's the remedy?
Yeah, how do you fix that?
Wash your hands first.
No, I mean, once it happens,
Oh,
you said milk. I mean,
milk. Yeah,
milk?
yeah.
I never would have thought of
No, yeah, you gotta.
Copious amounts.
that.
So the water is only gonna spread the oil to make it worse, so you don't wanna flush it with water. You could dab like a paper towel in the milk and then do that, so that's what I did to try to kind of capture all the oil the best that I could.
Sounds painful just thinking about it,
It's not fun.
especially with the one.
So we're gonna wanna make this as small as possible for a jalapeno. You can use serrano, you can use habanero in this instance. You could even use poblano.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Poblano's a little bit hardier of a pepper, but it's still gonna have amazing flavor for what we're doing. So as small as we can get it. A brunoise would be the size of cut, very teeny tiny.
Wow.
I'll show you how to make our onion roughly the same size. So when we're doing something like this and we want our onions to be almost as similar in size, what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave this guy on. So we're gonna cut here, then we're gonna cut here. And we're gonna take our skin off.
And while you're doing that, Tom and Pat, how was that margarita tonight? Did you like it? Shoot us a message in the chat box. We also have on, Amy's on, Bill's on, Mark's on, Kelly, Tom, Pat, Wendy, Sharon, Ron, Netta, and Lily and Pat. So we have a smaller crew tonight. I think just, it's hot outside and everybody's getting out of this heat. They're leaving Arizona. So we have a few less people this evening, but thank you all for joining
Absolutely.
our summer edition.
How's everyone doing? Do we have any questions so far? Any hand
Everybody has
raises
the
in the chat
marinade.
box? Chickens marinated, margaritas or margarita.
Are flowing.
There you go. All right, so this process here, if we leave this piece on, it's gonna keep our onion attached.
Which
So,
is good.
right, so if we're trying to make a dice this small or the brunoise, we're gonna want to make slices this way and then make slices this way. So all we do is we make slices this way at a downward angle so you don't get your fingers. And all we're doing when we do this is we're breaking up the layers of the onion.
Right.
What's gonna determine how big our dice is is how many cuts we go this way.
Mhm. I just love learning the cutting techniques. Like, to me, that's the hard part, and you always make it look so easy.
After 22 years of cutting, yes, it gets a little easy. You'll still cut your fingers, so don't be afraid, right? So then now, as you can see, now we can go down this way.
Right. And you get those nice even cuts.
So it's pretty much identical. It's a little bigger than the jalapeno, which is what we want it to be anyway. Because we don't want to be taking a bite of jalapeno that big. But then we'll roll down. And then you can make your slices this way, so you can get this action. And then just be careful, because as we get closer to that one, we're not gonna capture it, okay?
Right, well, that look, you may have a simple. Now, I've always heard that you can keep this in your refrigerator for, how long, a couple days?
If you're gonna make fresh pico like this, I'd say no more than, definitely no more than 7.
That's
As
still
you'll
pretty long.
see, 2, 3 days, 4 days, it'll be fine. You'll see at day 3, day 4, it's gonna start breaking down the tomatoes a lot more, depending on how ripe these are. So if these are super ripe and they're very firm when we go to cut them, it's gonna last a lot longer. But as we open up the tomato, like we're going to do now, it's gonna release the water content. Once the water content starts being released, it's gonna end up in the bowl.
Got it.
Just like when we do our pineapple salsa, as you see, day 1, day 2, all that water content from the pineapple ends up in here. I want to get rid of it because that's love, but you don't want to be putting that into, you don't want to be sogging out a taco with that juice of it, right? So if you made this yesterday and you were planning on making these wraps today, so all these flavors can marinate in here and have a great flavor today.
Right.
I would take all that juice from that and use that in the marinade.
Okay.
Mhm. All it is flavor.
Right.
Mhm.
This is adding all that good flavor together.
Oh,
Yeah.
Deliciousness, as I call it.
I love that.
So here we're just gonna make slices as uniform as possible. And these ones are gonna be slightly bigger than the tomato or the onion. And that's what we're looking for. Because our focal point here is going to be the tomato, but still relatively smooth. So then all I do is just make my julienne cuts and then turn it for my dice. That. And we're gonna want to add some juice. I think our lemon juice into this as well. The juice of lemon, salt, pepper, jalapeno we got. Fresh cilantro. This is the same thing, depends on how much you like. For cilantro, you don't have to be too concerned about leaving the stems on there.
Is it pretty thin?
Yeah, and they're not as fibrous as like a parsley stem.
Right.
So they'll break up, plus as fine as we're gonna be chopping it like this. So as you saw, I made a nice little bundle, right? Pinch it all together so we can break it down as much as we possibly can right here. We come back across. Have a nice dice there.
Smells great. I love it.
Oh, nice and fresh.
So
Yeah.
fresh.
And then a little salt and pepper there, Beth. Garlic in here if we have to. That's all to taste. Salt's gonna help enhance the flavor. Do a little mix. Then we look at our ratio and we see, is this what we're looking for? So for me, this is super heavy on the onion, right? Which is okay, because I'm gonna add more tomato during our commercial
It
break.
is a little heavier on them.
No big deal. But that's what we want to do. So the gist of it is I'll add more tomatoes. So I'll add actually all of these to this so that way it bulks it up so much more, right? But we gotta get moving along.
Yep.
So let's get on to our chicken. What we want to do is we want to get our skillet on high heat, nice and high. Grab our tongs, one of those. And our oil.
Right here?
So remember, we already have oil on our chicken.
Right.
We only want to put just a little bit in here so it doesn't stick to the pan. That's
Right.
the goal, right? So the oil is that little bit of fat to help prevent. Also, it helps to create that sear. We've already have some, but we don't have, we put a nice layer there. We just need to put a little thin
Just get
layer.
started.
Yep. So when you see, we want to get a nice hot heat. And the reason we put this in right now, so we can try to capture it. See how it's starting to ripple? You can see here how it's just starting to ripple away. And that's what we're looking for, right? We can tell that it's not quite hot enough yet. If it's starting to smoke, it's too hot. Turn your heat down. All we're trying to do is capture a really good sear. So we want high heat, and it's going to be real quick and real fast. I'll make sure we get that spread around. You can always take something with a little bit of water content. Tell right away, not even
Done,
close to hot,
yeah,
right?
done.
So that's always nice. You have something always lying around, cilantro or a piece of onion. Now we can hear just that little bit of water content from the jalapenos
Right.
just starting to crackle a little bit. You can see around here that
We're
the
starting to get it.
oil is starting to ripple up a little bit more, right? So we're getting to that temperature that we're wanting it to be at to get a good sear. We want to create caramelization.
Right.
Just like if you're gonna do the chicken breast as we did last class. With the burrata salad. We did the
Right,
chicken.
right. Yeah.
Nice,
that was
good sear, finish it in the oven, let it rest, juicy every single time.
Absolutely.
How's everyone doing at home?
Any questions? What can we help with? Or is this pretty, I think this is
This
not
one's
that
pretty
difficult.
straightforward, right? It's just utilizing fresh ingredients, something that's not so heavy
Right.
in a different manner, right? Everyone loves tacos. This is similar in a healthier fashion. That's
I
all.
like that.
Trying to get back into that Speedo season, you know? Dive season's coming up. Right? You know?
Exactly. Everybody's gotta look
Yeah.
good for the summer.
That's right. Everyone's got to look good for the summer. So let's go ahead and let's get a nice sear going. So like I said before, we could cook completely in this pan. A thigh like this would take roughly probably 3 to 4 minutes aside, and it might be done. It might take maybe like this little guy right here. I'd say 6 minutes and it'll be done.
Wow.
Hands
That's
down.
probably in 7 minutes, Matt.
Yeah, like, yep. These guys might be a little more, might be 8 or 9, maybe 10, just depends on how thickness some of that is. And if we don't overcrowd our pan, we're gonna get a better sear. Because we're gonna allow the pan to maintain the heat. The reason we chose to do the cast iron skillet is to maintain that heat, right? So you can still do that with a different pan, but this is what we're wanting to capture, this caramelization. Nice sear there. We're just gonna go about 2 minutes aside roughly, and into the oven, 8 minutes, they'll be ready to go.
And I got a good high temperature, so that way we're gonna continue to caramelize. We're wanting to capture that.
Caramelize each side.
And in the oven, it's gonna continue, right, because of the high temperature that we have our oven at, it's gonna continue the lemon juice and the agave nectar. Fortified with the coriander, the chili powder, or the cayenne pepper, yeah. And that's what we're wanting to really capture there. So we'll get these guys out.
And I love it that you can start it here and finish it in the oven, so if you do have more than your pan size, it allows you to make more for your guests, if you have company over, or just a bigger family.
Right, and it all finishes at the same,
Right.
right? That's the big piece. You know, if you had a roasting pan, you wanted to break that out and not only use it for your turkey at Thanksgiving or your prime rib at Christmas, a great opportunity to do that. But that's a pan that's that big that you can
You
just
should put it on.
throw
Yeah.
right into the oven. So if we were only, you know, cooking enough for the 4 people, then we could just take this pan right
Put
in
the
the
whole thing in
oven,
the oven.
let it finish, right? That's the beauty of it.
So any questions on the cooking process of the chicken, anything we can help with, answer? And are you guys already done? How's it looking out there? And Steve wants to know how many margaritas you've had. 2, 3, anybody?
If the answer is 3 by now,
You're done.
slow down. Just put it
Put on
in
the
cruise
brake.
control and just slow down. Cause it will catch up.
Then a no comment, nothing?
No, nothing.
Nothing?
All right,
All
everyone's,
right, they're having fun. They
everyone's
cooking,
cooking. That's what's good.
Okay, great.
Everyone's enjoying margaritas.
Love that. That's what it's all about. Dinner, cooking at home, beating the heat, staying inside.
Beating the heat, yep. And it's clean eating, right?
Right.
So that's
I love
another
that.
important piece too. How do we eat clean? You feel better when you eat clean. So trying to incorporate that, you know, and it's really not hard to do. People think like, oh, clean eating is all organic, and it's not, that's not necessarily it. Making sure you're incorporating your vegetables, making sure that you're not overdoing red meat,
Right.
making sure that you're maximizing the nutrients and the ingredients that are all around. I actually just was reading an article today about oregano being the most healthiest, yeah, herb that's out there. So I was thinking ginger and garlic, apparently due to current research, oregano
It's up there.
supersedes that, yeah. So now I'm gonna be incorporating oregano to my diet. I don't know how my ginger shot with oregano is gonna go in it, but I'll find out.
Throw it in your smoothie, do something with
You
it.
gotta do something, right? So cooking, like oregano would have been just fine in this application. You're not gonna douse it with it, but just a little bit will go a long way, so.
All right. Well, we put this in the oven. Should we do a quick little market update?
I think once we pop this in the oven, we're free to go to a commercial break with the Ryder
Market
Lee
update?
Realty team.
Steve?
You can smell that caramelization.
It looks amazing. It smells so good.
That's gonna go in.
And what do you have your oven on, just in case you want to?
Ours is at 425, 450, because we got
So
ours
a
is
little
quick
bit
and
higher,
fast.
not the 350. You want to keep it up over 400.
Yeah, because it's quick and fast, right?
Got it.
Ultimately, cook in your pan here. Why? Because turning the oven on heats up the kitchen,
Right.
which then heats
So
up
you
the
just
house.
finish it here and
If
then.
you finish it all here, let it rest for a second, chop it up and go. That's the way to go. In an application like this, I recommend getting the little screens. You know, the little flat
Oh, yeah.
screens that you can just set on the top here. Once you drop that chicken in, screen on the top, it's a splatter screen. So the screen catches all the grease
Right,
and not your countertop.
which
So
is
that's always
actually easier cleanup later. on down the
easier
road.
cleanup. I'm all about
Love
easier cleanup.
All right, well, you chop that extra tomato.
Let me just chop away.
We're gonna get a little market update. So the heat is
How's the
on.
market?
The heat is on. It has been so hot out there, so we've seen a little bit slower traffic.
Always in the summer, when it's 115 degrees, They're only out if they truly want to buy a home.
They're serious. Absolutely, totally.
So all, anybody, any sellers that we're dealing with, if you get a showing request, you need to absolutely do everything you can
To
to
accommodate.
accommodate that, because tempers are a little high when the temperature is a little high.
Especially because you have to take the dogs out of the car. We understand like that is a pain. Someone stays there or it's late. So there's a lot of things to do with having a showing in the summer.
Yep.
It's more complicated. So with that said, they're out there, people are still buying. That's great news. And interest rates have kind of settled in. I feel like we haven't seen a big hike. We're just kind of stabilized
Well,
right
they're
now.
not going up anymore, so that's
is
the
great.
good news. We're preparing for a possible rate drop before the end of the year. So right now, yeah, we've seen a couple of months of inflation that is cool. So as long as we don't go too crazy over the summer, gas prices don't go too crazy, we don't get into a war. I mean,
All important things.
it could just be life on Easy Street.
And we'll see things start to, people to buy more, real estate will just definitely pick up at that point. But what do we do in the interim?
Get a consultation, because no matter what, guys, the prices of homes will go up when the market when we finally see 6%. If we see anything under 6, the market will explode and prices will go up 20 to 50, probably 15 to 20%.
Right.
So buy now, because you're always going to be able to refinance later. And if you want to buy new, so here's something that's interesting. We had more housing starts in November of 2023 and February of 2024 than we've seen in the last 5 years. So housing starts means within 6 to 8 months, those houses will be built.
Right.
Which means we're going to have a lot of inventory over the next 2 to 6 months. So more inventory definitely gives you an opportunity for more choices, and builders get a little more aggressive because they want to get rid of that inventory.
That's kind of what I was thinking. In the summer, I think of it's a great buying season.
Yep.
There's less buyers on the market. There's more
Less
opportunity,
competition.
less competition. And if something's sitting, either a builder or a resale home, they might be willing to come down a little bit more to sell. So we kind of see that little bit of our artificial lowering just because of the heat and less buyers out there.
And we've seen an uptick in buyers that are living at home and their parents are helping them because they just graduated from college or they just had a child. So guys, we can help your kids and advise them on what's the best way to get into the housing market, because you definitely want to get in now before it's too late.
And don't throw your money away on rent. I mean, you get nothing for that except for the landlord, right? And we're landlords, so we understand it, but.
We'll take your rent.
But we also know that we want you guys to learn how to invest and to spend your money wisely, because that's what we would like to make sure our clients do for us.
And
Okay.
we will, after the summer, start doing some more investment seminars. So if you're thinking of investing, either reach out to Beth for a private consultation or look forward to our seminars right after the summer.
And we are starting a new first-time homebuyer seminar
Oh,
coming up in
yes.
July. And I don't have the exact date in front of
But
me.
we'll get it posted.
I want to say it's July 17th, but we're gonna get that out to you and we're gonna share that with everyone. And it's going to be twice a month. Anyone can join at any time. And it's a great forum to ask questions,
Yeah.
learn about how to buy today. So we're really excited about rolling that out.
Looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you. And let's see what the chef has going on.
Oh,
Wow,
the guy.
Oh, is that-
We have
Well,
more-
back from
more
this
tomato.
commercial break, we went ahead and we added all of our
Okay,
Wow. that
tomato
looks
in there,
great.
so that's a nice complimentary, not too many onions, not too many tomatoes.
Wonderful.
And it's all your preference, right? So nice and light, nice and fresh.
Lovely.
All these are gonna marinate beautifully together.
Wonderful.
Let's grab our lettuce. Garnish. So Boston lettuce, living lettuce, butter lettuce,
Mhm.
it's all very relevant.
Yep.
The reason we use these guys is because of the flavor profile and how
I feel like this feels thinner or something, I don't know. What do you,
Not necessarily thinner, it's just, it's a crisper and it is a more delicate.
delicate? That's what I was thinking, maybe not thinner, but delicate, maybe is a better word.
So I'm gonna wanna go ahead. Will you grab me a plate there, Beth, please?
I don't know.
What we're just gonna do is rinse off all the dirt here. We're gonna trash anything that's not worthy of our lettuce wraps. As we were just saying, the lettuce
And
is
you
gonna be
use
a little more
romaine?
delicate, but it is crisp, right? And it's
Right.
gonna have that buttery flavor, so it's gonna make a difference in the end of our
How
product.
about romaine?
Another one that works good for this are the baby romaines.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of trying to find the hearts of romaine that like fit perfectly, they're the baby romaines or the artisan romaine. Make excellent lettuce wraps.
Wonderful. I hear some noise in the background. Anybody have a comment or? Anybody have anything they want to mention? Everybody's quiet tonight. No talking.
You trying to beat the heat?
Henry said that he added some onion slices to his chicken.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good. I added onion slices to chicken. That sounds good.
So when you sauteed your chicken, you added some onion into that. Building flavor profile. That's exactly what you wanted to be able to do that. Take the mixture out of there a little bit.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's some more in here. Reason I'm patting it dry, so then that way you don't get a big old mouthful of extra water that you're not looking for.
Right, exactly.
Plus it's gonna help drown out the flavor. Guys are ready. Let's take a peek at the chicken.
Oh, looks great.
Well, we're almost there. Just about. So let's go for another minute there. That'll finish up. Anyone got any questions or anything at home? You know, we had the tip on putting some onions in. By all means, add whatever you can, whatever you want to it. So as one thing we teach here is when you cook is you want to be able to enhance your preferences into recipes. So when you read a recipe, don't be afraid to add derivatives or to veer from. I don't like this, or I don't like that, or I'm on a diet and I can't do it.
Right.
So
So if I don't want meat, I don't want chicken in this dish, what can I substitute with my pico de gallo? What can I have with it? That's
meaty light.
meaty like.
Okay, so if you want a tofu, okay,
Okay.
sure. Some people don't like it, not a big deal. Edamame,
Ooh, that's a good one.
zucchini,
Okay,
eggplant can all be made in the same fashion and get all the same flavors to
I
do
like
this.
that.
If we were gonna do edamame, we could go a little bit in a different direction and go Thai with that. So remember when we did the chicken drumsticks, the lollipops?
Right,
Same concept, except add another ingredient, the fish sauce,
right.
right? For that Thai flavor, which was absolutely amazing.
It
Vinegar.
yeah.
And the edamame. So
Right.
then we just took one dish, we added a couple ingredients or eliminated a couple ingredients or swapped them.
Cooking with edamame?
And still made something that's delicious. You're gonna want to use something that is meaty like mushrooms could work. So you could do the same thing like a portobello mushroom. You could pan sear, you could finish in the oven, and it's gonna have that meat-like texture. If I was gonna do portobellos for this instance, I would go more along the lines of the Asian style instead of this fresh. So
I think
soy
so.
sauce, vinegar, little sesame into there, the jalapeno, the garlic, the tomato, the onion, the cilantro, those are all the flavors that they use anyway. So just by adding those couple other things, it's gonna pair much better with the mushroom than this style here. This is to help complement your chicken. As
Got it.
opposed to the mushroom. So if you're gonna use zucchini or eggplant, this would work just fine because it would absorb that flavor without any real obstructions to the palate. So that way it can still be steered in the right direction. So by all means, adding the veggies to that's a great.
Wonderful.
Uh-huh. And if you don't like lettuce, then put it in a tortilla and call it a taco and have a wonderful dinner, right?
It's not as light and fresh, but it's still fantastic. And
It's
it could be
still,
corn, flour,
Yeah,
whatever you want.
absolutely. Flour would work best in this
I think so
instance. You could use the corn. You want to, make sure you heat them up. Throw avocado in there.
Oh, yeah.
Add that right to what we're doing right now. So
And we could
whatever-
still do that with the chicken.
That's what I'm
If that's
saying.
what you're
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
this right here and a little bit of avocado on there is just gonna elevate it. So keeping it fresh, keeping it simple, always not overdoing it. But most importantly, it's always trying to utilize what's already
What
in
we
the
have.
fridge, right? So don't buy 15 ingredients that you're never gonna use again. It's always cross utilization. If we have this onion left over, how can we use this? What are we using it for? This stuff right here can be turned into something else.
Right.
That can be from a different region, a different style of cuisine. Because pretty much the whole world uses most of the same ingredients, they just use them differently to get their cuisine.
And I
So,
think we struggle with that. We look at our fridge, we see nothing, even though there's a lot of food in there, and we don't know how to put it all together. So this really kind of helps me figure out what. we like
well,
with
and
something.
another one too, it's like when you see a picture, or you see a recipe and you go, oh, that's too difficult.
Right.
The reason that we do this is to teach everybody that it's not really as hard as it may seem. That a little more difficult if you haven't done it before, but in the essence of it, not really too difficult, right? Rolling the paper was the hardest part of
It
all of
was,
it, right?
actually.
And what was the outcome of that product as opposed to just baking the fish?
Oh, absolutely, the juices were amazing.
Completely different,
Yeah.
right? So, instead of going out and paying $45 for that, you paid $45 to feed you and your guests.
Right,
So that's the important piece of it.
absolutely.
Let's take
All
a
right,
look at our
let's see.
chicken.
And is your chicken done out there? Are you guys eating
I
it?
imagine everybody's diving in already.
I know, our chicken, we got it right out.
I would like to know if actually would work in this kind of.
So yes, your Hatch chili will work just fine. That depends. If they're whole, or if they're diced, right? So if they're diced, you could throw it into the pico de gallo and it'll work just fine. If they're strips, I would put them into it on their own, just because then it'll be different. You'll get that bite of green chili that won't be drowned out by the rest of the ingredients. So it'll really stand prominent, right? So just like we were saying, add the poblano pepper, a different flavor profile. The poblano is going to still have a little bit of heat to it. So like a bell pepper,
Probably not.
not a lot of heat, zero whatsoever, but the poblano will have some and that flavor profile. So if you wanted to roast those and then add it to it, by all means, put a nice little strip in there. So when you eat it, you'll get that poblano flavor. If you were to dice them up and put them into our salsa here, it might lose that integrity, or that flavor might get lost in all the other ingredients because of that.
Got it.
Mhm. So let's take a couple of these guys. And all we're gonna wanna do is just julienne them. Grab us a
Absolutely.
plate.
We're loving the smells over here. Are you guys? It's just really getting great.
So I pinched off that little end piece there. That's gonna be a little too fibrous of what we're working with here. But we'll stick to the So you're gonna wanna think about when we go to pick this up, right? We're setting it up so that that way when we grab it, we can fold it like a taco. So we don't wanna overcrowd it. So that way it falls all over the place and then you're just eating a salad at the end of the day with a
Right.
knife and a fork, right? So you just wanna be cautious of that.
So, I mean, a healthy portion of chicken and it looks like a meal. I mean, it's a whole meal.
Oh, absolutely. And you'll eat these three right here and you'll go, all right, I'm good, right?
You've got the vegetable, you have the protein,
Yeah, absolutely.
everything.
So then you can actually do this.
It's all about the plating.
That way, nice little lime squeeze and you're ready to roll.
All
Next
right,
month?
and next month, we have July 18th coming up. Mediterranean orzo pasta salad,
Another light meal.
yes.
So you think
nice.
pasta salad, and you're like, oh, barbecue though,
Yeah.
right? Right, so barbecue, what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep it light and we're gonna
Okay.
keep it fresh.
Yeah,
We're gonna do a tarragon and pistachio pesto.
interesting.
So we're gonna paste that onto some chicken and roast it, and we're gonna serve that with our Mediterranean orzo salad.
Wonderful.
Combine those flavors together and really rock your taste buds.
That sounds amazing. All right, well, thank you all for joining us tonight. We appreciate you being here and we'll see you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Hey. Hey to the next show.